The moment she sat down beneath the California sunshine, the entire world stopped breathing. Viewers expected a glamorous royal interview filled with carefully chosen words and polite reflections about palace life. Instead, what unfolded felt explosive, deeply personal, and dangerously calculated. Within minutes, accusations against one of the most powerful families on earth were being delivered calmly to millions of stunned viewers across the globe. The atmosphere was tense from the very beginning. Every pause felt deliberate, every emotional confession perfectly timed. She spoke about loneliness, rejection, cruelty, and silent suffering inside royal walls, painting herself as a woman abandoned by an institution that cared more about image than humanity. People watching from their homes were devastated. Many believed every word instantly. Social media erupted with support. Television channels replayed emotional clips repeatedly, and public sympathy poured in from every direction. Yet while audiences were still overwhelmed by the drama of that night, cracks had already started appearing beneath the surface. Journalists and royal commentators quietly began revisiting old interviews, archived footage, and public statements from years before she ever married into the monarchy. What they found completely changed the atmosphere surrounding the interview. The woman who claimed she knew almost nothing about royal life had spent years openly fascinated by the royal family. Old friend described her obsession with Princess Diana long before Prince Harry entered her life. Childhood stories, blog posts, and interviews painted the picture of someone deeply aware of royal culture, traditions, and public image. Suddenly, the innocent outsider narrative began looking far less believable. Then came the emotional stories presented as proof of personal closeness and betrayal. One touching memory involving the late Queen herself quickly fell apart when footage from the event surfaced publicly and contradicted the story completely. A secret wedding claim that sounded romantic during the interview later faced serious questions under British law, forcing church officials into awkward public clarification. Headlines displayed on screen as examples of cruel treatment were later challenged after researchers discovered altered context and misleading framing. One by one, details that had once sounded heartbreaking began attracting uncomfortable scrutiny. The deeper people looked, the more confusing the entire picture became. Was this truly the story of a woman silenced by power, or the story of someone incredibly skilled at controlling public emotion? That question changed everything. Sympathy slowly turned into suspicion. Viewers who once offended her passionately began wondering how many moments had been carefully crafted for impact rather than honesty. Even Hollywood insiders reportedly grew uneasy behind the scenes. The interview that was supposed to secure permanent admiration instead opened the door to years of doubt, criticism, and relentless public questioning that refused to disappear. At first, the entertainment industry welcomed them like royalty reborn. Streaming giants rushed forward with enormous contracts worth millions, believing the couple will become global media powerhouses capable of dominating documentaries, television, and humanitarian storytelling for years to come. Their arrival in California was treated almost like the beginning of a new dynasty. Powerful celebrities surrounded them, photographers followed every movement, and executives competed desperately to secure partnerships. The world expected bold projects, inspiring productions, and meaningful cultural influence. But as time passed, excitement slowly began fading. Despite extraordinary deals and endless publicity, very little meaningful work appeared. Projects arrived slowly, often surrounded by delays, rumors, and internal frustrations. The glamour remained, but results did not. Behind closed doors, stories about difficult working relationships quietly spread throughout the industry. Former staff allegedly described emotional tension, exhausting demands, and environments where employees constantly felt nervous about making mistakes. Some people who worked around the couple hinted at dramatic mood changes behind the polished smiles shown to cameras. While supporters dismissed these stories as gossip, the complaints never fully disappeared. Instead, they kept resurfacing from different places and different people. Hollywood executives who once praised them publicly became strangely quiet. Meetings stopped leading anywhere. Big promises failed to materialize. One senior entertainment figure openly questioned whether fame alone had convinced studios to expect talent that simply was not there. Another executive mocked the failed partnership publicly, describing the situation with visible frustration. These were not anonymous internet critics or tabloid journalists. These were powerful industry figures speaking openly after years of silence. Even celebrity friendships that once appeared extremely close began fading quietly into the background. Public appearances together became rare. Major launches and personal projects received noticeably little support from famous allies who once seemed inseparable from them. In Hollywood, silence often speaks louder than public arguments. When influential people stop mentioning your name entirely, the message becomes impossible to misunderstand. Meanwhile, public perception continued changing rapidly. Comedy shows turned the couple into recurring jokes. Award ceremonies mocked their endless complaints and obsession with privacy while constantly remaining in front of cameras. Online discussions grew increasingly harsh. Polls ranking disliked celebrities placed them shockingly high despite the enormous sympathy they once enjoyed worldwide. For many people, the issue was no longer whether palace life had been difficult. Instead, they began questioning whether every emotional appearance had become part of a carefully managed image designed to generate attention, sympathy, and financial opportunity. The turning point for many critics came during a highly publicized charitable visit after a tragic event. Emotional photographs showed comforting embraces and compassionate conversations with victims, creating headlines filled with praise and admiration. But shortly afterwards, clothing worn during the visit reportedly appeared linked to commercial fashion promotion online. The reaction was brutal because it seemed to confirm what critics had suspected for years, that even moments involving genuine human tragedy were somehow becoming opportunities for branding and profit. Public trust, once damaged, became harder and harder to recover. Years earlier, they walked away from royal life believing they could rewrite the rules completely. They believed freedom, celebrity influence, and media power would allow them to control their own story forever. For a short period, it seemed possible. They dominated headlines across the world, reshaped public debates, and convinced millions that they represented courage against an ancient institution. Yet over time, the very spotlight they embraced so eagerly became the thing that slowly destroyed the image they had built. Every interview remained online forever. Every statement could be compared against evidence, timelines, and public records. In today's world, audiences may fall in love with emotional storytelling quickly, but they also grow tired of contradiction just as fast. People started noticing patterns. The repeated complaints, the endless victim narratives, the carefully staged appearances designed to appear natural and spontaneous. Gradually, admiration turned into exhaustion. Even their connection with powerful media figures appeared permanently damaged. The interviewer who once gave them the biggest platform of their lives slowly disappeared from their public world without any dramatic announcement. No arguments, no public fallout, just distance. In elite circles, that kind of silence says everything. The same people who once celebrated them loudly now seem determined to avoid involvement altogether. Meanwhile, the royal family they had accused so publicly continued carrying out duties, appearing at events and maintaining the same calm silence that had defined the monarchy for generations. Ironically, that silence became one of the strongest responses possible. While accusations created temporary global chaos, time slowly shifted attention toward consistency, restraint, and endurance. By 2026, the atmosphere surrounding the couple had changed completely. Crowds no longer looked as passionate. Public appearances attracted more criticism than admiration. Industry confidence weakened. Huge contracts disappeared or were quietly downgraded. The dream of becoming respected global media icons appeared increasingly fragile beneath growing public skepticism. In the end, what remains is not the triumphant story they imagined while sitting beneath the California sun years earlier. Instead, it became a warning about fame, power, and the dangerous belief that emotion alone can protect people from scrutiny forever. The world listened carefully when they first spoke because their story felt powerful and painful. But eventually audiences began asking difficult questions, and once those questions started, the image carefully built in front of millions slowly began collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions.